Okay. Hey, it's Brent Leary. It is a beautiful, and I do mean beautiful, Tuesday afternoon here in Atlanta. I think we're like kicking in the 70s here. The sun is out. It doesn't even feel like it's winter. Is it still winter? It doesn't feel like it.
Well,
Winter here.
the sun is out here as well in Seattle, so we'll
Okay.
be fine.
Well, that's good to know. And the voice and the face that you were seeing with me is my guest for a few good minutes, Neha Bajwa, who is global head of product marketing for CRM and CDP products for Microsoft. Neha, thank you for joining me. This is great.
Thank you so much for having me. I am so excited to be here. Every time I get to talk to you, it gives me happiness.
The feeling is mutual for sure, absolutely. And there's a lot to kind of talk about, a lot to pick your brain on, because there's so many things going on in CRM and CDP, and those new words are phrases that we're hearing like ChatGPT, generative AI, and large language models. We're going to figure out all that stuff. Well, some of all that stuff
Yes.
today as we talk. So before we jump in, I usually do this thing on CRM players with our mutual friend Paul Greenberg. Now I call that, when I ask him a question, I call it Stomp the Godfather. Yeah, and I always have to make sure I say stump and not stomp, because stomp does not sound good. Or I pose a question to him and see if he can answer it. He's not here today because this is not the CRM players, but I kind of have something I want to throw out to you. Uh, so,
Making me nervous. I am
no,
nervous now.
I think you're gonna get this, but I'm gonna put a quote up. I'm gonna ask you who do you think said this. So here we go, and I'll read it to you when it comes up. All right, so here's the quote: meeting customers and partners and spending time in the field with the sellers gives me so much energy. It helps me find my why as I hear about their definition of customer experience and how technology can help them delight their customers. Neha, who said that?
Okay, you really got me. um, I was telling you about this just earlier in our green room. This is me. This is my why.
Look at that. It was you.
Yeah.
You posted this on LinkedIn, and you were at an event in Munich,
Yes.
and you were talking about the energy that you get from. Maybe you just tell us a little bit about the finding your why. Why do events like that, when you're able to engage with customer audiences, why does that help you find your why?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I was just telling you this, Brent, right? Like we at Microsoft, and a lot of us, like a lot of us leaders, product marketing leaders, we we work with our teams, we work with analysts like yourself, we work with a lot of people who help us get educated, right? Like we sort of like it's we don't know all of this. Like we just are curious and we are asking a lot of questions. And particularly at Microsoft, like we have the saying, we are in an ivory tower because we're in the headquarters in Redmond. But the execution and the customers are really sitting worldwide, and so they're sitting in all different parts of the world, and our sellers are talking to them quite a bit, like 101. And so a lot of times what I find is when I go out there, I do these events, I talk to customers, I talk to the sellers. It helps me stay grounded. It still helps me sort of get a perspective which is completely unfiltered,
Mhm.
right? And customers will tell you, they'll call BS, they will tell you what's wrong with your products, you cannot be all marketing on them, right? You've got
Mhm.
to like go down a level. And so I absolutely enjoy this. And this is why I've been in product marketing for 20 years. And I continue to, I'm in love with this function of product marketing because of these customers who sort of help me stay grounded.
Nice. So before I start asking questions, what kinds of things, questions did your customers have at that event around, some of this new stuff, this chat
Yeah.
GPT? How are what are the thoughts that came out, and what are maybe some of the questions they have, and maybe some of the concerns they have about it?
Yeah, yeah. The big one actually is, well, everyone's playing with ChatGPT. My 12-year-old daughter is actually playing with ChatGPT and telling me stuff, right? And so everyone sort of is playing with it. Uh, the question now it's this fascination that we have. So everybody sort of in business world gets it. The question now is what's the application of it in our world for our application? Number one, how do we help our sellers, our marketers, our agents um, work smarter? The big question on everyone's mind is how do we do it securely? What's
Mm,
the security aspect of it? Is it secure? Is it compliant? Is it going to, like, am I going to get garbage, right? Because this is just AI. Like I was like one of our AI leads was telling us that it is researched and interrogated. Like it is research. This is research done here. If you interrogate a person for 2 hours, the person will tell you whatever you want to hear, right?
right.
And so with Chat GPT, it's like if you sit and interrogate that Chat GPT or that AI bot and you persistently ask them to tell you something, they'll just feed out garbage. They'll tell you, like if I went in and for 3 hours, I continued to hammer, I am not a nice person, tell me I'm an idiot. That AI will tell you that because that's
Yeah.
what you want to hear. But how do you keep that out in the business world?
Mm,
Because that's all game and that's all good, but one bad email, one bad response, one inappropriate response from a seller, an agent, it can shut down a business, right? And
yeah.
so that's big on everybody's mind. What's the security angle? How do you do it responsibly? And so we sort of have been taking a lot of that.
Yeah. Have they, did you get the sense that they had already been playing around with it, maybe
Mm-hmm.
on their personal side, asking questions to Chat
Mhm.
GPT? How much do they know about it?
It's as I said, it's on everybody's mind. Now, Europe, the other thing that I sort of found is US is ahead, right? So
Mm,
every region is in a different space. US is always a little ahead in technology adoption, and we are a little bit more open, and we are a little bit more, we'll try things out, right? So we are a lot more open about it. Europe is a little like they are more conservative when it comes to these new kind of technologies. So they have a lot more questions. They want to be appropriately satisfied from a compliance standpoint, from a GDPR standpoint. And so there are a lot more questions. So yes, they've all been playing with it in their personal realm, and they are asking questions. Hey, do I bring it into my corporate world? And if I do bring it into the corporate world, what are the things that I need to take care of? What are the things that I should be aware of? And so those are all, those are some of the areas.
What about their expectations? Do you get a sense for what their expectations are for this stuff yet?
The biggest thing is if it can make my seller's life a little easier, and if it can help the sellers, the agents, the marketers do their work a little bit more smarter. Like there's some research that is done, right? That there are about nearly 9 out of 10 workers want to automate stuff. They don't want to do some of the mundane stuff. They want somebody else. It can be anybody. They want somebody else to take care of all the mundane stuff, right? All
Right.
of us. I wish I had an assistant who just took care of stuff. So they do want, and they want use of AI to sort of help and reduce this repetitive task. So as business leaders, they're all sort of saying, how do I make it easier? And particularly in this environment, you have this
Mhm.
macro environment going on where we are all being asked to do more with less. How do we get more out of our technology investment? How do we get more out of all of the stack investment that we have done? How do we make our sellers or our workers more productive, right? And give them the tools so they don't feel like, oh my God, like everything is on them. That's the expectation. Okay, can AI help them? And is this useful to give the workers the empowerment that it needs?
Should they be looking at this as just another kind of a progression in how technology has been adopted over the years. And it for me, we had the term digital transformation. It really seemed to take hold around the beginning of the pandemic, and everybody was talking about we need to transform, we need to do this, and understandably so, because when people couldn't go to the stores, they had to do everything via the web or via their mobile device. There's a digital transformation that's taking place. So I got used to using a term because it felt like digital transformation, or was it really digital transition? Because we were just basically trying to replicate the things that they were already doing digitally. We don't want to do anything different. We just, like you said, we don't want to do it manually. We don't want our hands on it. So we'd rather transition that work to something that can be done with automation, and which is great. Should this be looked at as that, or should we also be looking at it? It's not just being able to offload some of the mundane stuff, but this is really the opportunity to transform, not just transition how we do things, but transform and maybe even do things differently than we ever have, because we've never been able to do stuff. We never had this before. Are we getting, do you feel or get the sense that they're saying we just went transition, or are they saying, well, no, we really want to use this to do things completely different and better if possible?
Well, it's still early days, right? And so people are still trying to figure this out. Like, we have a point of view, and this is like Satya has said this out, like our CEO from, Satya has gone out and said it, that this is a transformation. Hmm. And the reason it's a transformation, like if you can use natural language to be able to help write code, like if you look at GitHub Copilot, it actually helps developers write code and faster, right? So like a lot of the code, like it gets them started. It's so you can actually start writing code. You can start doing development. There was an article that I was reading yesterday where a developer not a developer, a marketer was saying he's now become a decent developer because he can go in and start coding and start to like play around with it. So it allows individuals to really do things that they've not done before for whatever reasons, because they don't feel they have all of the proficiency or all the education to sort of try something. Because at the back end, and do it in natural language, right? You don't need like very sophisticated tools and technology. You can just ask a question, and AI is like computing billions and billions of parameters and algorithms to be able to do that for you. So what you're really doing is, and this is why it's a transformation, not a transition, because what every worker, like a dev, a developer, like outside a CRM world, we can talk about CRM all day, but outside a CRM world, it will impact people in a fundamental manner, because suddenly the power of billions of algorithms is now working on your behalf. Mm-hmm. And that's the beauty of it. So that's why it's so transformational. Now, we've been doing AI, as you know, Brent, at least at Microsoft and in Dynamics for a couple of years. This is not ChatGPT or generative NLP, natural language processing, has been around. So it's not like we've been working. In fact, in the last 3 to 4 years, all of our investments have gone in AI capabilities. So when I think about Dynamics for sales, Dynamics for marketing, Dynamics for service, a lot of our innovation has gone towards AI. So we have conversational intelligence, we have next best action. All of those are AI capabilities. But it was very hard for people to understand. Like I did a research last year when we were talking to all the CFOs, and they were like, they don't believe that AI can really help them until now. Right?
Why now? Let me ask, why now? Why? Because it feels like you said, a lot of this technology has been around for years, and kind of either on the edges or really, really penetrating what could be really impactful on regular work stuff. Why do you think now, all of a sudden, it's like the last 5 months, it just completely mushroomed? Why do you think it happened now?
it's because of OpenAI, right? So what Sam, like what OpenAI was able to do is really bring it down to simple terms.
Mm,
And because we use AI and we've been using leveraging a lot of AI and you have talked about conversational intelligence in one of your CRM plaza, like is AI like finally here, right? Like
mm,
it's been around, and but think about who integrates it. It's the developers, they're data scientists. We all have data scientists. We have developers. They're working on it. They're integrating it. So there is a lot of like, and it's very hard to explain. It's like, oh, this is how it works, right? You sort of get into the mechanics of it, and it's very hard to explain to a BDM. When I say BDM, a business decision maker, a chief sales officer, or a service leader, how this can help them benefit. Like, how can it help them with their KPIs, their outcomes, right? Now what OpenAI was able to do is actually show the world and that how in simple terms. Like you can ask a question in very simple natural language, and the AI is doing that work. So from an outcome perspective, getting the value is is realizing value, and oh, I can realize value is now almost like self-explanatory because somebody's asking a question, and what OpenAI was able to do is because you've done it in the consumer world, like you're sort of doing it for all of like any masses, it becomes easier. It's like common language. Like you ask, as I said, my 10-year-old, she knows all about chat GPT,
mm.
and I have to sort of say you can't use that to do your homework.
Right.
Right. It's the same thing about asking Alexa to like create your shopping list. Like it's now natural to us. Like we don't think twice about, oh, like having Alexa do stuff for us or turn on the lights, right? That's the same thing. It's that same concept of democratizing natural language processing and bringing it down to simple terms. That has now profoundly made it easier for us to sort of explain what we've been working on for the last 3 years. Now, for
Mm,
us, it becomes like easier, right? So we do like our dynamics for marketing product, for example. Last September, we included content ideas, and it's been in public preview since. Anybody can go and work on it. It was working on the old like Chat GPT 3.0, sorry, GPT 3.0 algorithm. We have updated it now that it's now working on 3.5 and 4, like next it'll be on 4.0. So the point is, it's this, it's now mainstream.
So let's talk about the impact of all this stuff on CRM. Let's
Hmm.
talk about it from the standpoint of sales, because I think both of us can agree, salespeople do not like using CRM. Generally speaking, they don't want to sit in front of a desk. They don't want to be typing. They don't want to be clicking. They don't want to be swiping. They want to be out there selling. They want to be out there building relationships. So they've been very hesitant to use CRM, generally speaking, because of whiffing. They don't know what's in it for them. How do you feel like this is like this technology, generative AI, large language models, chat? Do you think this is going to finally get salespeople on board with using CRM?
It's a really good question, right? I fundamentally believe that our interaction with CRM has changed, is going to change. The way sellers interact with CRM. So we have Viva Sales, like we came out last year with something called Viva Sales because we fundamentally believed, and when you hear sellers, that's exactly what they say. Like they're like, we don't get anything out of a CRM. CRM is more for sales managers, right? To me, the big brother needs to know that I'm doing my job and I'm putting all my stuff in so they can build pipeline and dashboards and do opportunity analysis. But somebody's got to feed the data in, because if the data is not fed, then you don't have all of the cycle that the life cycle that you really need, right? And so that interface, that interaction with CRM is what people dread. It's that drudgery.
Yeah.
So we introduced Viva Sales, and Viva Sales is essentially we call it a CRM companion, which sits on Salesforce CRM, Dynamics CRM, and it will do all of that work for you. It'll capture things that you're doing as you are typing an email or you're doing Word documents as you are in office. Because the hypothesis is sellers are using productivity tools to communicate to our customers, right? They're using Teams, they're using Office, they're using, like if you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, you're using a Microsoft productivity tool. And so we sort of did that first. Now with generative AI capabilities, we are adding to that, right? Because now we're saying when you write an email, like a seller starts to write an email, generative AI or Copilot, we introduced Copilot yesterday, Dynamics 365 Copilot, but Copilot will write that email for you.
Yeah. Yeah. That
It writes the email. So you don't even need to, and it'll pull all of the data from Office because we have loads of data. There is more data in Office Graph and in M365, Microsoft 365 Graph than it is in CRM, right? Because CRM has to be fed. And so what Copilot does is pulls the data from the Office Graph, pulls the data from the CRM to create this email for you that you can very lightly edit. You can sort of say, all right, because you do want a person involved. You know, this is we have this saying here. It's a co-pilot. It's not the pilot, right? You do not want to give up complete control. Like even when you're doing self-driving car, you want the pilot to be sitting next to it, right? And
right.
so this is the whole concept that it will write the email for you. You do light finishes and touches. So if it would take you 8 minutes or 10 minutes to write an email, now it'll take you 1 minute, right?
Yeah.
That's the beauty of the Salesforce, of this generative AI or Copilot capabilities. And we have other capabilities that we are adding. For example, we'll start adding, or we are adding calendaring. So the customer says, yeah, sure, I can meet with you 10 o'clock tomorrow. Automatically that calendar invite gets set up, the email sends out, it's like, okay, I'm setting it all up, and then you just have to say, do you want me to send it on your behalf? Like that also is like being able to automate a lot of the tasks that sellers do automatically is what Copilot will do.
Yeah, it's funny. I'm going to pop up a couple of statements from my buddy Anand Thakur. You might have known Anand is one of
Yes,
our
I
CRM
know.
players in residence. We also know him as, we call him the golden smog of CRM because he has this voice. It's really resonates. It's really good stuff. I like what he says there. Salespeople do love talking and conversations, so that should play into them wanting to do being able to do that.
Yeah.
But I would also wanted to pop this up because I was doing some searches yesterday because I knew I was going to be talking to you. I wanted to be prepared to talk about stuff, good stuff. And I found this blog post by Josh Burson. I really don't know who Josh is, but I found what he said pretty interesting. Microsoft launches OpenAI Copilots, which is what you were just talking about. But I wanted to kind of clue on this. He says, while journalists worry about, I don't know why they're worried about, this week, Microsoft took a big step in introducing OpenAI embedded into Microsoft Dynamics, and also introduced development tools to let you build intelligent chatbots on your own data. But here's the thing, and I think I wanted to highlight the last segment there. This opens the door on the biggest market of all, generative AI used for enterprise apps and business productivity. That's a big statement. And we've had a lot of technology in the past that was, kind of phrased like it was going to do something like that. I'm starting to feel like this might actually be maybe bigger than a lot of most, if not all, the stuff that came before it. The potential. Do you see the potential for these technologies having that kind of impact on the way that people work, particularly enterprise? Because a lot of times, a lot of this cool technology doesn't necessarily translate from personal to business. Like, I'll give you a great example. I was so excited about the series and the Alexas. I started a ZDNet blog 5 years ago. I called it Voices Carry because I was so excited about the potential of being able to just talk to your applications like you would talk to a human being, like you would talk to a speaker, and it really didn't happen in the time frame that I was thinking it would. But now I'm starting to feel that kind of excitement again. I feel like we may be closer than ever to being able to just talk to your application like you're able to talk to a human, and have that interaction that makes it more likely that a salesperson may want to talk, use their CRM because they could talk to the CRM in natural language and get stuff back. Do you think,
Yes.
dare I say, do you think this might happen?
Yes, that's exactly right. Like I feel like this is the biggest disruption in the CRM world, right?
Yeah.
Because if you think about CRM innovation, we've not really had a lot of CRM innovation. Like, what is CRM? It's a system of record. You sort of capture the data, you're talking to a customer, and for sales, for marketing, for service, it's the same thing. And yes, we do business process automation, but really, like, making the CRM work for the seller or for the agent or for the service agent or for the marketer has not really happened. This is the biggest disruption, right? Because you can talk to your CRM in very natural, like simple natural language. You can say, hey, look up this record for me, or help me craft this email, help me write this marketing campaign, and it'll sort of pull it all together. Here's my biggest aha, and this gets me so excited. So we've been talking about customer data, like we talk about CRM, which is like, okay, is it enough? Customer data platforms, like you and I, we've talked about customer data platform. That is a complex system, right? Because it is based on SQL tables.
Mm.
You're really doing SQL queries. At the back end, it's a database. It's a relational database, and there are rows and columns, and you have to do joins and cojoins, and you're basically building a lot of data, and you're getting a lot of data. We sort of talked about being able to work with a CDP is hard. You need data wranglers. We need data
Mm.
scientists. We need data wranglers, people who can understand data and how do you manipulate data. With Copilot, you don't have to do that anymore. You can ask a very simple question: create a segmentation for me based on these parameters, or where do you think I can, like, let's say a marketer wants to run a campaign, what is the best geo to run a campaign in, or create a segment of such and such profile. And then you could write a natural language query, and it will do that entire analysis for you, and it will tell you, here's what you need to do. It'll give you back in a human language, so you don't have to write SQL queries anymore.
Mm. That's huge. Being someone that used to write those for a living years and years ago, that's really significant. All right, there's so much excitement. There's so much potential. What should your customers be? Make sure they're not blinded by all this nice shiny stuff. What are the main concerns
Yes.
and the challenges that they need to be aware of as they start to go down this pathway?
Yes, it's a really good question, particularly in the CRM world, or the CDP world. Like, and a lot of my peers in the marketplace are also announcing their like, it's like you won't believe it. Like, we sort of like, we came out, it's like a rat race. We call it a rat race, right? We are sort of like racing because there is so much excitement. There's so much energy behind it. So all my peers are doing it as well, and that's all good. It's actually good for the market, for the industry, right? Because it helps us all get to better together. Like, we are sort of in it. It's not one vendor doing it versus another vendor. It's like all the vendors are in this and helping make CRM better. The thing you have to, I would sort of say, and we say this to our customers, and our customers are actually saying this to us: make sure you're doing it responsibly. And so the question is, how are you using AI and generative language and the inclusion, the implementation of generative AI within the application? Is it done in a responsible manner, right? And so what's the trust aspect? What's the transparency? What's the security angle on it, right? How are we making sure, like a corporation, that the data does not leave, and and the data stays where it is, and all of the compliance and security aspect is taken care of. That implementation is very important.
Yeah.
Number one. Number two, are there additional parameters that the vendor is doing to ensure that it is additive? So we take something from OpenAI, but OpenAI is an open model. It doesn't, it's like it's an open model. Now, additionally, are there other things that your vendor is doing? For example, on dynamic side, we do a lot of something called prompt engineering. So we are actually putting in prompts to help fine tune the model, right? We're basically saying, instead of sort of saying, hey, ask, like somebody can ask a very open-ended question, then now behind the scenes, we're actually putting prompts in, because you have to like prompt, you have to like narrow it down and make sure the context is important.
Mm.
What, because every question, I'm going to go on the side a little bit. One of my leaders used to ask me a question about some data, and I would give her one answer. And then, half an hour later, she would ask me another question, and I would give her a different answer from the same data set. And she would say, "You keep changing your answer." And I'm like, "Because you keep changing your question." I'm like, the data set is the same data set, but any variation in your question is going to make I have to change my answer, because I can't give you the same answer, right? And that's the importance, the context. What happens is the question, the prompts help with context. So the context is very important. Is the seller writing to a customer for the first time? Or is the seller writing to the customer the seventh time?
Mm.
Has the customer already engaged? Where are they in that in the pipeline, right? Are they in the 20%? Are they in the 40%? What are all the actions that have happened before? All of that is context. Context is very important. So is your vendor including any additional algorithms and intelligence to provide the context that is locked in the CRM or that is locked in other databases? Is very important. The third thing is, are they doing additional work to fine tune the model? And the additional parameters, right? Like algorithm and data science is only as good as the parameters that you give them. How much data are you feeding in? So 5 million parameters, 15 million parameters, it's a big difference. The output between 5 million, 15 million, 20 million, when you get into billions, right? That's the thing that's going to make that AI model that much more better and more precise. Because in the business scenario, particularly for a seller or a service agent, one wrong answer or inappropriate answer
Mm.
or an inappropriate marketing campaign will have disastrous consequences.
Yeah. One thing that I'm concerned about with all this stuff, just generally speaking, you have all this reams of data that's being created either through devices or through interactions or through analysis of data that creates data itself. And you have, like you said, these algorithms that leverage the data to come up with things that humans typically wouldn't be able to come up with on their own. So there's more data being created. There's more algorithms being created to leverage that data. There's more insights. There's more stuff that we're finding out, which is a lot of work. Which is why I know why a lot of everybody is gravitating towards these platforms, because it's just so hard to bring it all together and analyze it and create the algorithms and create the code and all that kind of stuff. So I think there's a lot of emphasis on that, and rightfully so. But I think maybe as important as all that is, the ethical use of whatever comes out of that is it could be a game stopper if you spend all your time and effort putting it together, and then you ethically use this in a way that people are turned off on, and they'll never
That's
trust
right.
you again. How
That's
much should people really be concerned about that? Because I feel like the
that's
hype
right.
is not taking that into consideration.
That's right. And business leaders are. I think that's the thing. Like it's the ethical, and we at Microsoft we call it responsible AI, right?
Mm,
Because ethic, like the ethical use of it, and being able to do it responsibly, being able to make sure that the data doesn't have biases, because bias and inclusivity is such an important thing. Like you, the data can amplify biases, right? And so there are algorithms that we do at the Microsoft level when we are talking about Azure OpenAI. So we take OpenAI and then we are doing our own work on it and our version of it, which is Azure OpenAI. They're actually like doing adding additional algorithms to make sure that the biases are ruled out, and they're sort of like doing all of that filtering. So there's biases, transparency, privacy, but the ethics of it is very important. And this is why you don't, there will always be supervision.
mm,
You do not want that, hence our name, Copilot. You do not want it to be the one that it's like the leads, right? There's always has to be human supervision, and there has to be, like in business process, it all comes down to technology can only help you so much, right? At
yeah,
the end of the day, there is organizational structure and processes and governance that needs to be put in place, because technology is here to help and aid, but the organization, the business has to set some parameters and put 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 recommendations and processes on how to use it. That's the whole thing about CRM. Like if you think about, we've talked about this, right? Customer experience and CRM. Like the promise of CRM, it, there is a lot in this has to do with the organizational process and governance and leadership.
yeah,
Technology can is there to help, cannot replace that.
yeah. Now, this has been a really great conversation. I want to ask my last question. Peer out year or two, 2 years, let's say. Where are we going to be with all this stuff? How has will it have been fully integrated into what people do to make them more productive, to make them more efficient? Where will we be in 2 years with this?
Oh, 2 years is a long time. I think there will be so much innovation in this space, particularly with this generative. I do think that maybe soon we will not be like feeding the CRM, and somebody will take and feed all of that for us. And a seller will enjoy their life, right? Because there is a personal assistant that they have gotten that writes their emails, that sort of does their calendaring, that sets up calls, that actually does takes all the note taking, which conversational intelligence is already doing, right? And then synapses it and does like all of that, like is made available and easier, and it is in everybody's hands. So it's not a premium offering. It's not like you have to like break the bank to go pay for this, right? It's truly democratized. Um, Agents are not solving, going through loads and loads of um, knowledge articles and reading up to be able to answer. So these are things that will become accessible and common. So a lot more innovation in this space, but fast. I don't think we have to wait for 2 years.
Oh, that'd be great. I know salespeople. I'll know this is really hitting home when I actually hear from sales folks. They actually like using CRM because
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
something I haven't heard a lot over the decade.
yeah. I think your audience and yourself should probably go try, because all of our products and Copilot is available for every area: sales, marketing, service, supply chain, finance. It's also available for low code, Power Automate, Power Apps. People can go try it out. It's in public preview. Everything is available out there. You can get your hands dirty. You can start playing around with it. Sellers can start playing around with it, and particularly with Viva Sales, it can sit on any Salesforce CRM, so you don't even need Dynamics for it.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's more like we can talk about it all day long, but I think people need to experience it.
Right.
And once
Where
you experience it,
yeah. Where could they go to find out and to sign up
yeah,
more?
dynamics.com, like our main website, and then you can go from there.
Awesome. Well, Neha, this has been really a
Thank
great
you.
conversation, really fun. I can't believe the time has flown like it has because it was just so much. You're bringing so much really good information. Thanks again, and I hope we
Thank
can
you.
do this, you know, a little down the line to see how things are progressing and to see how things are actually being changed almost in real time as people adopt these things.
Yes, yes, thank you. Anytime. I'd love to come back here again, and I would love for you to do one of those CRM plazas again. I always like talking to my peers, you know, get the juices going. Maybe Anand and I can do something together.
Ooh, all right. Yeah. Well, we are actually in the midst of putting together our next one, so I'll definitely let you know.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
All
And
right.
thanks again for everybody for checking this out. And I will see you in a couple of days for CRM players.
Yep.
Until
Thank you
then,
so much. Bye bye.